The stars above Virel moved slowly, as if the galaxy had forgotten the planet even existed. Toma sat in the pilot seat of his small scout ship, staring at the quiet world below. The mission was simple. Scan the surface for old Irari technology and report back to command. No action, no danger, and certainly no reward. Just quiet work. Most humans avoided this part of space. The Irari Empire had once ruled thousands of systems, and even now they carried pride in their history. But Virel was different. It had been lost during a war years ago. The gate that connected it to the rest of the empire had collapsed. No one had touched the place since. Toma didn't mind. He liked quiet places, and Earth's new role in the Galactic Union meant small missions like this helped build trust with the older species. "Even if they forget your name," Toma said. To himself, smiling softly, "they remember your work." His ship gently landed near an old, broken Irari structure. Time had covered it in vines and dust, but some of the metal still shone through. He stepped out, wearing a thin pressure suit and carrying a scanner. Bird-like creatures flew overhead. The wind was calm. Virel felt peaceful, too peaceful. As he walked deeper into the ruins, the scanner beeped. It wasn't strong, but something was giving off a small energy signal. Toma followed it. Behind a fallen wall and under some broken panels, he found a sealed hatch. Strange symbols marked the edges. Irari writing. Very old. He touched the control pad. "It didn't work. I knew it wouldn't be easy," he whispered. Toma set up a small power link and gave the door a charge. After a moment, the hatch hissed and slowly opened. A soft mist escaped. Inside, it was dark, but he could see something. No. Someone. It was a stasis pod. Inside was a young alien woman floating peacefully in sleep. Her skin was pale with a soft golden tone, and her hair floated like silk in the pod's gentle light. She looked peaceful, untouched by time. Toma's heart raced. This was no soldier, no worker. She looked royal. He checked the scanner. Life signs were stable. The pod had kept her safe for many years. He looked closer and saw a broken emblem near her hand. It was worn, but he recognized the design, the crest of Queen Alacy, ruler of the Irari Empire. Toma stepped back. "Is this?" He touched a nearby console, hoping to access the pod's records. Most of the files were damaged, but one small message remained. It played as audio, in the Irari language. Toma used his translator to listen. "This is Princess Imari," the voice said gently. "If someone finds this, please tell my mother I'm still alive." The message ended. Toma stood in silence. Princess Imari had gone missing nearly 2 decades ago. The Irari Empire had searched for years, but no trace was ever found. Many believed she had died during a transport crash. Her name had become a sad story, a quiet, wound for the Empire, and now, here she was, alive, on a planet everyone had forgotten. Toma looked at the sleeping girl again. She couldn't be older than 20 by human age. Yet she had been asleep for over 17 years, alone. He took a slow breath. This wasn't just a salvage mission anymore. He had a choice. Report back, wait for orders, and let politics decide what to do, or take a risk. Bring her back himself. He looked around. The ruins were silent, the skies empty. No other ships. No other life. If someone else found her, they might not treat her as kindly. Some might use her for power or keep her hidden. The galaxy wasn't always fair. But Earth was known for something different. Toma made his decision. He gently connected his suit's energy to the pod, giving it enough power to begin the waking process. A soft light filled the chamber as the stasis field began to lower. The girl's breathing grew stronger, her fingers twitched. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now. I'll take you home." As the pod opened fully, her eyes blinked open, soft silver eyes that looked at him with confusion and fear. Toma raised both hands calmly. "I'm Toma. I'm human. I found you here." She tried to speak, but her voice was dry. He handed her a small water capsule. She took it, slowly sipping. After a moment, she whispered one word. "Mother?" Toma's voice was gentle. "She's alive, and waiting for you. I'll take you to her." Imari looked at him, uncertain, but hopeful. She didn't understand yet. But part of her remembered something. Her name. Her mother's song. The feeling of home. As Toma helped her out of the pod, the soft wind of Virel passed through the ruins once again. The stars above watched silently. A queen had lost a daughter, and today, a human had found her. Toma sat beside the sleeping girl, now wrapped in a soft thermal blanket. The inside of his ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engine and the steady beep of the life monitor. Imari, the lost princess, was alive, but weak, confused, and clearly not ready to speak much yet. She had fallen asleep again soon after waking in the ruins. Her body was still adjusting to being out of stasis after so many years. Toma didn't mind waiting. He was a patient man. Born on a farming colony near the edge of Earth's territory, he had learned that some things, like crops or trust, took time to grow. He looked at the small hollow device in his hand. It showed the message she had left in the pod. "This is Princess Imari. If someone finds this, please tell my mother I'm still alive." He replayed the voice again, softer this time. There was something heartbreaking about the message. It wasn't just a cry for help. It was a wish. A child's wish. Toma glanced at Imari again. Her breathing was steady. Her silver eyes had closed peacefully. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in a long time. But now the real question stood before him. What now? He couldn't send a message to the Irari Empire. Earth didn't have direct contact with them on secret missions like this. And if he sent the wrong message, someone else might try to claim her. Powerful families, enemies of the Queen, even black market groups. They would want her for their own reasons. He tapped on his nav system. Irari Prime was 3 jumps away. Not close, but possible. The safest path would mean passing through quiet trade zones and avoiding political checkpoints. That meant long hours, slow travel, and no mistakes. "I guess we're taking the quiet road," Toma said with a small smile. He entered the path into the system. His ship lifted off Virel's surface and rose gently into the stars. Behind them, the broken ruins faded into the distance. 6 hours later, Imari stirred. Toma noticed right away. He brought warm soup and a translator headset. She sat up slowly, her eyes still cloudy but more aware. Her gaze moved across the ship's small control room, metal walls, blinking panels, and soft lights that looked nothing like the palace she once knew. "This place isn't home," she said slowly. "No," Toma replied gently. "But we're going there." She looked at him. "Who are you?" "I'm Toma. I'm human. I found your pod on Virel. Do you remember anything?" She touched her head. "I remember music. A voice. My mother's voice. She used to sing." Toma nodded. "She's alive, still ruling, still searching." Imari blinked fast, her voice quiet. "She looked for me?" She never stopped. A long silence followed. Imari stared at her hands. "Everyone else is gone. My guards, the ship, my tutor. I remember them all, but it's like they're in a dream I can't finish." Toma sat beside her. "You were lost for a long time, but you're not alone now." Imari looked at him, for a while. Her voice came softer this time. Why did you help me? You don't know me. Toma smiled gently. Because someone should have. In the next few days, their journey moved quietly from one small sector to another. Toma kept the ship low in traffic, taking careful turns and keeping communication off. Imari rested often, and when she was awake, she asked questions. What's Earth like? Toma chuckled. Less shiny than Irari, I think. More grass, less floating cities. Do humans sing? Some of us. Not me. I'm terrible at it. She smiled faintly. My mother sings, only when she thinks no one is listening. That means she's kind, Toma said. Imari nodded. Sometimes she sat near the window and watched the stars go by. She was remembering more, small moments, happy ones, a painting in her old room, a garden with birds, a name, General Varn. She whispered it once, then went silent again. Toma noticed, but didn't ask. He knew some memories came with pain. On the third day, Toma's ship reached the final jump gate before Irari space. He took a deep breath. After this, things get tricky. Imari sat in the co-pilot chair, now dressed in a simple gray tunic Toma had found in storage. Her hair was clean and tied back. She looked stronger now, sharper. Will they believe I'm me? She asked. They'll test you, he said. But your eyes, your voice, those are things no scan can fake. I hope she remembers, Imari whispered. She will, Toma said firmly. Before the jump, Toma paused. If I get caught, he said, they might think I took you. They might not listen right away. I'll make them listen, Imari said, her voice steady. You're not my captor. You're the reason I'm here. Toma smiled. Then let's bring you home. He activated the gate. The ship glowed bright for a moment, then disappeared into the blue tunnel of light. They came out on the edge of Irari space. The stars here looked cleaner, more organized, as if the galaxy itself respected this empire. In the distance, shining, like a jewel in space, was Irari Prime, the royal homeworld. Imari stared at it. I remember that light, she whispered. Toma tapped the comms. We're going in quiet. No open calls. I know someone who can help us from the inside. Who? A friend of Earth. An Irari named Arrow. He owes us a favor. Imari nodded. As the ship moved closer, Toma thought about everything that had happened. This was never supposed to happen. He was just a scout on a forgotten world, and yet here he was, with a lost princess beside him, flying into the heart of an empire. Sometimes history doesn't wait for great people. Sometimes it waits for someone kind enough to care. The stars outside the window of Toma's ship moved slowly as they entered the outer region of Irari space. Far in the distance, Irari Prime looked like a shining marble, bright, beautiful, and powerful. But getting there without permission was not easy. Toma didn't have royal codes, no invitations, no diplomatic status. But he had something more important. He had Imari. She sat beside him in silence, her silver eyes fixed on the distant planet. Her face was calm, but her hands were tight in her lap. Her thoughts were heavy. She was closer to home now than she had been in 17 years, and yet she didn't feel safe. Toma guided the ship through a quiet sector where few patrols flew. He followed old cargo routes and used cover from small moons to hide their signal. These paths weren't on most maps, but Toma had flown many missions and knew the back doors of many systems. Almost there, he said gently. Imari nodded. It feels strange. What does? I thought coming home would feel warm, like being held, but instead it feels like a test, like I don't know what's waiting for me. Toma understood. Time changes places, but it doesn't always change people. If your mother is anything like you remembered, she'll know you. Imari looked at him. You really believe that? I do. 3 hours later, they reached orbit around Irari Prime. The planet was stunning, deep oceans, floating cities, and long towers that reached into the clouds. Green gardens spread across rooftops. Glowing rings circled around the planet, used for clean energy. It was a world full of beauty, order, and history. Toma contacted the surface, using a secure channel given to Earth years ago. It wasn't meant for surprises, but he didn't have a choice. He spoke carefully. This is Scout Vessel T7. I request silent landing under emergency diplomatic cause. I have a person of interest. The voice on the other side was cold. Name? Toma, of Earth. Purpose? He paused, then said clearly, I found Princess Imari. Silence followed. Then the voice returned, less sharp this time. Please repeat. I said I have Princess Imari. She is alive. We are not hostile. We are requesting landing to meet with a trusted contact, Archivist Aero Ven. There was no reply for 2 minutes. Then the voice returned. Permission granted. You will land in Dock 9, East Platform. A royal observer will meet you. Do not leave the ship until called. Toma shut off the comms and turned to Imari. They're letting us land. That's a good sign. Imari gave a small smile. I'm ready. Dock 9 was clean and quiet, made of silver stone and soft blue lights. Toma landed the ship gently and powered it down. Outside, several figures waited. Tall, Irari guards in smooth armor, and in the middle stood a slim, older man in a blue robe. That's Aero, Toma said. He's from the Royal Archives. Very smart. Knows the law better than anyone. Imari stood up, her legs steady. She wore a simple white tunic now, with her hair tied back neatly. She didn't look like a lost child anymore. She looked calm, strong, and royal. The doors opened. Toma and Imari stepped out slowly. The guards did not raise weapons, but they watched every step. Aero stepped forward. His sharp eyes looked at Toma, then at Imari. For a moment, he said nothing. Then his voice came quietly. Is it truly you? Imari met his eyes. Do you remember the Lantern Garden? Aero blinked. Of course. You once gave me a yellow flower and told me it was older than our towers. You said I must care for it because it was small, but alive. Aero's mouth opened slightly, his eyes softening. He bowed low. Princess Imari, he whispered. Toma let out a quiet breath. The first wall had been crossed. Aero led them into a private room inside the royal station. The walls were filled with books and light scrolls, moving gently in the air. The guards waited outside, giving them space. She must be scanned, Aero said gently. Not just DNA, but memory, voice, eye pattern. The Queen will believe, but others will question. The court is full of politics now. I understand, Imari replied. She placed her hand on a scanner. Soft lights ran over her. Then she answered. Questions. Sang part of an old song only her mother knew and told the story of her tutor's last lesson. The system beeped. Green light, match found. She's truly the princess, Aero said. His voice was still low, but now it held wonder. After all these years, how is the Queen? Imari asked, her voice soft. She leads with strength, but her heart never healed. She lights a candle every year on your birthday. Every single year. Imari looked down, holding back emotion. Aero turned to Toma. You must know what this means. Bringing her here. You've done something no Irari could do. Toma shrugged. I just did the right thing. Not everyone does, human. You may not understand it yet, but you've just changed history. Later that evening, in a quiet chamber near the royal court, Imari was given time to rest. Toma stood outside, looking at the stars from a balcony. Aero stood beside him. She'll meet the Queen tomorrow, Aero said. The council may resist at first. Many have their own goals. But the queen will know her. Then my part is almost done, Toma said. Arrow looked at him curiously. You don't want anything? No reward? Toma smiled faintly. I just want to go home. You may not be allowed to leave so easily. Some will want to talk to you, study you, even test you. Well, Toma said, they'll have to ask nicely. Inside, Imari sat on a soft bench, holding a glowing orb that played quiet music. She looked out the window at the towers of her home. She remembered the gardens, the voices, her mother's laugh. Tomorrow, she would walk through those doors again, not as a dream, but as a daughter. For now, she closed her eyes. Safe. Finally. The palace of Aleri stood tall and wide, glowing with soft golden light. Its walls were smooth like glass, but strong as stone. Gardens floated in the air beside it, with long vines hanging from the sky. Birds with shining feathers flew between. Towers. The palace was a symbol of the Erari Empire's greatness and of its sorrow. For 17 years, the queen had ruled with strength and calm, but she had not smiled like before. Her heart carried the weight of a daughter who had vanished without a goodbye. Now that daughter was back, and the palace did not know how to feel. Toma stood near the outer gate wearing a clean, dark coat given to him by Arrow. He watched as Imari, wearing a long silver robe, walked slowly up the steps of the court. Her head was high. Her face was still. But inside, her heart beat fast. 2 royal guards opened the tall doors. Light spilled out across the floor. A low bell rang once. Inside the court, noble families, advisors, and council members sat in silence. They had all heard the news. A young human had returned from deep space, carrying a girl who claimed to be Princess Imari, the daughter of Queen Alesi. Some believed, some doubted, and some feared what her return could change. The queen sat on her high seat, dressed in deep blue. Her crown was simple, made of old starstone. Her eyes were sharp, and her posture calm, but her fingers gently pressed the side of her throne. She did not speak. She only watched. Imari walked across the golden floor until she stood in the center of the room. The hall was silent. Toma stood, just behind her, unsure if he should speak. But Imari took a breath and began. I am Imari, she said clearly, daughter of Alesi, born in the spring hall during the season of red light. My first memory is of the garden bell and the sound of my mother's singing voice. A soft gasp rose from the crowd. I was taken from the royal ship during a journey. Meant to visit the outposts, my last memory was falling, then waking many years later, alone on Virel. The queen still said nothing. Her face was like stone. Imari reached into her robe and pulled out a small item. It was a broken piece of a pendant. The other half had been left with her mother long ago. This was yours, Imari said. You gave it to me before my first lesson. You told me it would always mean, come home. The queen's hand moved slowly to her neck. There, still hanging on a thin chain, was the other half. No one spoke. No one breathed. The queen stood up. Her steps were slow but steady as she walked, down the steps of the throne. Her eyes were locked on the girl in front of her. She stopped just inches away. She reached out and touched Imari's cheek. Tears filled her eyes, but her voice was calm. My daughter, she whispered. Imari's lips trembled. Mother. They embraced. The court remained frozen, unsure what to do, as mother and daughter held each other in quiet, long-awaited peace. Toma let out a soft breath. Even across stars, even through time, love still knew the way home. Later that evening, in a private chamber full of soft music and glowing lamps, the queen sat beside her daughter. Toma stood nearby, now as a guest of the royal family. The queen held Imari's hand. "I knew you were alive," she said softly. "Not with reason, not with proof, but something in my heart would not let go." "I waited," Imari said. "Even when I couldn't speak, I waited for your voice." The queen nodded, then she turned to Toma. "You brought her back," she said simply. Toma bowed his head. "I only followed a signal." "No," she said. "You followed your heart." She walked over to him and placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "Irari owes Earth a debt, but I owe you, Toma, something deeper." He looked up. "I didn't." "Do it for reward. Then you truly deserve one." But outside this peaceful room, not everyone felt joy. In another hall, a group of advisors spoke in low tones. "If she is truly the princess," one said, "then she is the next heir." 17. "Years have passed," another whispered. "New deals were made, new leaders chosen. Her return could break everything." One figure, tall and shadowed, said nothing. He only watched. His name was Counselor Rin, and he had much to lose if Imari returned to power, and long ago he had made sure she disappeared. Back in the queen's chamber, Imari rested near the garden window. She looked peaceful, but dreams had begun to return. Memories of the crash, the strange signal, and a name whispered in her sleep. Toma sat across the room, watching her quietly. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded. "I remember more each day." "Anything bad?" She looked at him. "I don't know yet, but someone didn't want me to return." "I feel it." Toma leaned forward. "Then we'll find out. Together." She smiled. "You're not just a scout anymore, are you?" He smiled back. "Guess not." Outside the palace, the stars of Irari Prime blinked gently in the sky. The daughter was home. The queen was no longer alone. But the game of power had begun again, and, this time, the truth was a danger to many, and only one human stood between a princess and those who feared her return. The palace halls were quiet, but not peaceful. Guards walked carefully, advisors whispered, and in the air there was a feeling of tension, like a storm waiting behind the clouds. Imari's return had brought hope to the queen's heart, but it had also shaken the court. Some welcomed her with open arms. Others watched with silent fear. She was the lost daughter of the empire, but also a truth many had tried to bury. And now, that truth had returned. Toma walked beside Arrow, the royal archivist, through a high hall of glass and gold. Sunlight passed through the roof, casting soft patterns on the floor. "She remembers more each day," Toma said. Arrow nodded. "That is both a gift and a danger." "What do you mean?" "Some memories are light," Arrow said softly. "Others are shadows. If she remembers what truly happened during the crash, names, faces, orders, it may change everything." Toma looked out the window. "Then let the truth change it." Arrow gave a small smile. "You are human. You believe in justice. That is rare here." In her chamber, Imari stood before a long mirror. A silver line ran down her robe. Her crown was simple, made from crystal roots of the deep gardens. She didn't feel like a princess. She felt like a puzzle, slowly putting itself back together. Today, she would speak in front of the royal council for the first time since her return. It was not a trial, but it felt like one. She turned when the queen entered. "You look strong," the queen said with pride. "I hope I sound strong too," Imari replied. The queen held out a small music pendant. "Your voice is more powerful than you know." Imari took the gift and placed it near her collar. "I will speak the truth." The royal court was full. All seats were taken. Counselors, family lords, and science heads had come to see the lost princess stand before them. Whispers filled the air as Imari stepped into the circle. Toma stood at the back, watching carefully. A counselor named Rin stood up. His voice was smooth but cold. "Princess Imari," he said, "your return is unexpected. Many things have changed in your absence. New agreements, new leaders. Do you understand what your presence means to the Empire?" Imari stood tall. "I understand that I am alive, that I was lost, and that someone tried to keep me gone." Gasps filled the hall. Rin kept his smile. "You say someone. But do you have names? Proof?" Imari closed her eyes for a moment. Then she spoke clearly. "When our ship crashed, there was no warning. But I now remember something. A voice, a signal sent from inside. It was not an outside attack. It was a planned act." The room went silent. She continued. "And I remember a name. Not clearly, but enough to begin a search." She turned to the Queen. "Mother, I request permission to open the full records of my journey. I want to see the ship's last logs." The Queen nodded. "Granted." Rin shifted in his seat. Later that night, inside the deep archive rooms, Arrow helped Imari and Toma access a private console. Lights glowed and ancient data began to load. "These records were sealed after the crash," Arrow explained. "Only the Queen could unlock them." Imari scrolled through the files slowly. Dates, voice messages, crew names. Then one voice message stopped her. It was from the day of the crash. A calm voice said, "Maintain course." "No response to beacon. General Varn approved red signal. Move to Virel." Imari's eyes widened. "General Varn?" she said softly. "I knew that name." Toma asked, "Who is he?" "He was the head of palace security, my personal guard. He was supposed to protect me." Arrow frowned. "He left court soon after the crash. Joined Counselor Rin's group 2 years later." Imari looked at them both. "Then he's still here." Toma stood up. "Then it's time to ask questions." The next morning, Imari requested a private audience with General Varn. He arrived, older now, with short gray hair and a deep blue uniform. His face showed no emotion when he saw her. "Princess," he said simply. "General," she replied. "Do you remember your last order before the crash?" He raised an eyebrow. "It was many years ago." She pressed a button on her bracelet. The voice message from the archives played. Varn listened without blinking. "That voice is mine," he admitted. Toma watched closely. "You sent the ship to Virel." "I followed the command of the council," Varn said calmly. "They feared for your safety. There were threats. They believed hiding you was the only way." Imari stepped closer. "And letting my ship crash, letting everyone think I was dead?" Varn finally showed emotion, just a flicker of guilt. "I carried out orders. That was my duty." "No," Imari said softly. "Duty is protecting life, not hiding truth." She turned to the Queen. "I ask that this be brought before the full council. Let them hear the voice. Let the Empire know what was done." That afternoon, the Queen held a special meeting. The voice message was played. The name General Varn was confirmed, and all eyes turned to Counselor Rin. He stood, calm and cold. "I did what I thought was best for the Empire. The girl was young. There were threats. I advised we remove her from danger." "But you removed her from life," Imari said. "You let the galaxy believe I had died," some counselors whispered. Some stood in anger. The Queen raised her hand. "This court will decide on your actions. But today one thing is clear." She turned to Imari. "My daughter has returned not just with life, but with courage." The court stood. Imari bowed gently. She had not come back for revenge. She had come back for truth. That evening, Toma and Imari walked through the sky garden. Stars shone above. Flowers glowed around them. "You stood strong," Toma said. I had to, Imari replied. The past may be painful, but hiding it only gives it more power. Toma nodded. What now? Imari looked out across the lights of the city. Now, we begin again. The sky above Irari Prime was calm, but inside the royal palace, tension was rising like a quiet storm. After Imari's powerful words before the court, the palace had changed. Some nobles stayed quiet. Others tried to act friendly, smiling too. Much, asking too many questions. The queen remained firm, but even she knew a deeper battle was coming. A public hearing was now set. Councillor Rin and General Varn would face questions from the full Galactic Council. Their actions, their secrets, and their role in the loss of Imari would be examined in front of leaders from many worlds, and everyone knew. The truth could shake the Irari Empire. Toma stood with Imari near the Queen's garden balcony, watching. Ships move across the city sky. You sure about this? He asked. Imari nodded. If we don't face this now, the lies will never end. I'm not just returning as a daughter. I'm returning as a voice for what's right. Toma gave a small smile. Still sounds scary. It is, she said. But some things are worth the fear. Toma looked at her with quiet pride. The girl he had found on Virel had grown into a leader. She wasn't just remembering who she was becoming who she was meant to be. The council hall was massive, shaped like a great star with light falling down from the ceiling. Representatives from different planets sat around the center ring. Imari stood beside the queen. On the opposite side, Councillor Rin stood with General Varn. Their faces were calm, but both knew the power of the moment. Arrow, the royal archivist, stepped forward with a record scroll. His voice was clear. We gather to hear the truth. Not to punish blindly, but to understand. To bring light to choices made in darkness. The voice recording was played again. Varn's voice. The hidden order, the red signal. The path to Virel. Then, the queen stood. When my daughter vanished, I was told there had been an attack. No ship returned, no answers. For years I searched, I mourned. But what we now know is simple. This was not fate. This was a decision. All eyes turned to Rin. He stepped forward slowly. I made a choice, he said, one based on risk. At the time, we faced many threats, inside and out. I advised the removal of the heir to protect the Empire. But she was a child, said one counselor from the outer ring. She was not a danger, Rin replied. Her presence made her a target, and yes, her return today may cause more unrest. Imari stepped forward now. Her voice was steady. You are afraid because truth shakes your control. But truth also heals. I did not come to destroy this empire. I came to help it stand on stronger ground. A wave of quiet filled the room. Imari looked at Varn. You followed orders. But did you ever believe it was right? Varn looked down. I doubted, but I obeyed. Obedience is not always honor, she said. And silence is not always safety. The council members spoke in low voices. One by one they stood and gave their thoughts. Some supported Imari, others warned about breaking traditions. But then, a voice came from a human ambassador seated near the outer edge. Years ago, Earth was told it was too young to understand the ways of this galaxy. But a human found a lost girl and brought her home, not with power, but with kindness. Perhaps it's time we all remember what true strength looks like. There was a long silence. Then the queen stood. I will not call for punishment, she said clearly. Let the record stay open. Let the people see what was done, and let those who fear truth learn to live beside it. She turned to Imari. You have returned with wisdom. After the hearing, the palace felt lighter. People walked more freely. Guards smiled. Even the flowers in the sky garden opened brighter than usual. Toma and Imari sat by a pond, tossing soft stones into the water. Do you think they'll forget? Imari asked. Toma shook his head. They'll remember, not all at once, but slowly. You gave them something they didn't expect. What's that? Hope. She smiled gently. And what about you? Going back to Earth? Maybe, he said. But not right away. Too many new flowers to see here. Imari looked up at the sky. Do you know why I sang in the pod, even in sleep? Toma shook his head. I wanted to remember who I was, she said. And I hoped that one day someone would hear me. He looked at her. And someone did. That evening, the Queen called Toma to her private chamber. You have no army, no title, and yet you changed the course of our world, she said. Toma bowed lightly. I just did what was right, she smiled. I would offer you land, ships, medals, but I know those things don't matter to you. Toma nodded. Not much, no. Then I offer you something else. A place here whenever you want, not as a guest, but as a friend of the royal house. Toma looked around at the peaceful chamber, at the stars beyond the windows, and then said, I'd be honored. In the quiet of night, Imari walked alone through the garden of lanterns. The wind was soft. The stars above blinked gently, like old friends. She stopped beside a tree she remembered from childhood. It had grown taller. She placed her hand on its trunk. I'm home, she whispered, not as a dream, not as a memory, but as a light returned from the dark. The sun was rising over Irari Prime. Soft gold light fell across the high towers, the gardens, and the crystal blue skywalks. A new day had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the life of the Empire. Imari stood on the Queen's balcony, watching. The morning light touched the city. The warmth on her skin felt different today. Not just the warmth of the sun, but of something deeper. Peace. After weeks of meetings, hearings, and whispers, the Empire had started to heal. The truth about the crash had been released to the people. General Varn had stepped down from all roles. Councillor Rin had been removed from his position. Some still found it hard to accept, but most now looked at Imari with respect, not just as the Queen's daughter, but as someone who had walked through darkness and returned with light. Inside the palace's open hall, the Queen prepared for an important ceremony. It wasn't a royal crowning or a military award. This ceremony was quiet, simple, and meaningful. Toma stood beside Imari, helping her adjust a sash on her robe. You ready? He asked. Imari smiled. I don't know. I think I'm still learning what ready means. Toma laughed. That's a good answer. The hall doors opened. A small group of guests entered, leaders from allied planets, scientists who once searched for her, families who had lost someone on the same mission. And at the center, the Queen stood waiting with a new emblem in her hands. This symbol, she said to the room, is not a crown. It is not a medal. It is a mark of memory. For those who were lost, for those who were found, and for those who never stopped believing, she turned to Imari. You were once lost to us, my daughter, but you were never forgotten. She placed the emblem on Imari's shoulder. Let this be a reminder, not of sorrow, but of strength. Imari bowed. I return not just for myself, but for everyone who still waits to be found. Later that day, Imari and Toma walked through the city streets without guards. People smiled at them. Some waved. A few children pointed and whispered. Toma laughed. You're a hero now. I was just someone who didn't give up. Still sounds like a hero to me. They stopped near a quiet park where artists were painting on tall glass walls. One of them had made a beautiful scene. A silver pod. Floating in space, a girl curled inside, a gentle light surrounding her. That's me, Imari said softly. The artist turned, surprised. Oh, Princess! I mean, Imari! I didn't know you'd come here. I'm glad I did, she said. It's beautiful, he smiled. I just painted what I felt. Your story. It gave a lot of people hope. Imari looked at the painting. Thank you. In the evening, the queen met with Toma in the royal garden. You've done more than you know, she said. I didn't plan any of it, Toma replied. I just found a girl in a pod and listened to her song, the queen nodded. And that may be why it worked. You weren't trying to change our world, but you did. She handed him a small device. What's this? He asked. An open path, she said. With this, you may return here at any time. You will never be a stranger in this land. Toma took it carefully. I don't have many homes, but I think this one feels right. The queen smiled. Then, let it be one. That night, Imari returned to the place where her old ship had been stored. It was quiet now. The pod that once carried her was placed under protective glass. She touched the surface gently. You kept me safe, she whispered. She looked around the room. It was full of machines, logs, maps, reminders of the crash and the journey after. But Imari wasn't here for memories anymore. She was here for something new. She walked to a control panel and activated a screen. A new ship was being designed. Not for war, not for escape. A ship for searching, for listening, for finding others who had been forgotten. She named it the Luma, meaning light in silence. Weeks passed. The Empire began new outreach programs, helping forgotten colonies and distant stations. Imari helped lead these missions, using her experience to guide others. She visited places where people had been left behind. She sang songs that once kept her company in the dark. And she brought people home. Toma stayed for a while, helping with communication between Earth and Irari. He taught locals how humans used simple tools to solve big problems. In return, he learned about star gardens, sky crystal music, and how to ride the light rails without falling off. He laughed more than he had in years. One evening, as the sun set red and purple, he stood beside Imari on the deck of the Luma. You ever wonder why you survived? He asked. Imari looked at the stars. All the time. And what's your answer? She smiled. So that I could help someone else survive. And so, the girl once lost in space became a voice across the stars. The queen had her daughter again. Not only in title, but in truth, the Empire had hope again, not only in law, but in heart. And humanity had proven something the galaxy never expected. That sometimes, the smallest act, one kind word, one listening ear, one hand offered in silence, could change an entire world. Because even across space, even between species, one truth remained. Humanity, at its best, never leaves anyone behind.